Mr. Mamdani.
To Mr. Cuomo, I have never had to resign in disgrace. I have never cut Medicaid. I have never stolen hundreds of millions of dollars from the MTA. I have never hounded the 13 women who credibly accused me of sexual harassment. I have never sued for their gynecological records, and I have never done those things because I am not you, Mr. Cuomo. And furthermore, the name is Mamdani, M-A-M-D-A-N-I. You should learn how to say it because we got to get it right.
Yeah, Mr. Landon.
May I respond?
All right, well, we're, the only thing, so hi guys, hello, welcome to the live stream Without a Country. I wouldn't be Without a Country if we didn't have tech issues going live. One day we'll learn how to live stream on this show. I'm excited to do it. We are watching the second mayoral debate for the going into the New York City Democratic primaries, which voting happened, well, early voting starts June 14th and in-person voting is June 24th. There's only been really two questions in the first round that happened. They talked about how they would handle the Trump administration, gave their opening messaging, and now, Cuomo and Mamdani are going at it. I just thought in that last question, Mamdani had a really good retort to this listicle that Andrew Cuomo presented about all the things that Zohran hasn't had experience doing, leading a staff of 300,000 people, an extensive budget, a natural disaster, et cetera, and then Zohran came back. Obviously, he was kind of prepared for this with all the things that he's never done, like sexually assault women, steal money from the taxpayers, MTA, etc. Here it is.
Nothing. He's accomplished nothing. 3 bills are all he passed. He is the worst attendance record in the New York State Assembly. He has never held. Oh,
that's an interesting. That's an interesting fact. Having the worst attendance record in the Assembly. I'd like to hear more about that, actually.
It is laughable. It is laughable, and it is dangerous.
I want Mr. Cuomo to look out into the crowd and look at Richard Chow, who lost his brother to suicide because of the taxi driver debt crisis. I went with Mr. Chow over many, many months organizing to push this very city to finally reckon with its complicity in that, and we won $450 million in debt relief. And I want you to look at him and tell him that that's nothing.
Okay.
Zohran Mamdani's achievement with taxi drivers is definitely extremely impressive, and probably his most impressive achievement so far as an elected official.
And Andrew Cuomo has experience. I know that. He does. But vision matters. And Mamdani said it right? Mamdani.
It's Mamdani, and everyone is feels so old and white when they say this. Now Scott Stringer's kissing Zohran's ass, which is fun.
And my experience and my vision, when you combine it, is the third lane to win this race, and that's what we have to do.
Very good.
We cannot have a mayoralty on training wheels. But we
Scott Stringer, again, is one of 3 mayoral candidates who have accusations of sexual misconduct against them. I think for him it's specifically harassment, but Andrew Cuomo, Scott Stringer, and then Eric Adams all have accusations against them. I don't even know why Scott Stringer is running again. His whole campaign fell apart last time when he ran for mayor because of those accusations.
And I'm proud of that.
Okay, fair enough. I want to bring Ms. Adams into the
and it kind of it just gives me the ick. Everyone on stage yucking it up with Scott Stringer, and no one saying this. I know we have bigger fish to fry, but ew.
Independently elected, maybe politically connected, who cannot be bypassed, cannot be fired. How do you avoid falling into the trap of catering to vested interests at the expense, possibly, of the public interest?
Well, in the words of Scott Stringer, let's just cut to the chase. As the only candidate currently doing this work, that everyone is aspiring to do as co-leader in city government and city hall already, as one that has walked up those steps of city hall for almost 10 years, as the one that is leading one of the largest legislative bodies in the entire country, as one that has
I like
seen
Adrienne Adams a lot. I do think she
120,000
has the
units of
experience.
affordable
My
housing coming up in the
interactions
city,
with her
as one
have
who
been
has championed
pleasant.
the largest victory for
I did a private
affordable housing
endorsement
in a
meeting with
generation,
her,
as
so
one
no
that is
public
already
was
doing this
present, and she
work,
could have
as one that
been,
has taken
she could have, you know,
private
tore me apart.
skills from
She
the
could have
private
really
sector
spoke
in
down to me, and
management. I have
she
trained
treated me
people
like a
that will
colleague.
make
I mean,
more money than
you
I
know,
will ever make in
that's
a
what anyone
lifetime.
who
And bringing those
should do when they're
skills
running
with
for
me into the
an
public sector,
elected
into the New
office.
York City
But
Council,
not
now
everyone
leading
acts that
a
way,
body of
and I thought she was very
50 council
gracious.
members, as the one with the experience, ready
Even
to
though
go
I'm
to
sure
work
she was rolling her
tomorrow,
head like,
because where
why do I have to
work
do an
is where
endorsement meeting with
everyone
this
else on
stand-up
this
comedian? But
stage aspires to work in City Hall in Adrienne Adams, New York.
Okay.
I will definitely
I have a
be,
question for
you
you,
know,
Mr.
ranking
Tilson,
Adrienne
related
pretty
to this
high on my
discussion. You have
ballot.
frequently said on the campaign trail that, quote, career politicians have caused many of the city's problems or made
Whitney
them worse.
Tilson is.
You said tonight, in fact, that this is no time for
He has bad
amateur
ideas.
hour.
He's not a good speaker.
Explain
He
why
lacks
a lack of
enthusiasm.
experience
I
running a city
mean,
agency would make you a better manager
drives me
than some of
crazy.
your rivals here.
I actually view not being a politician as a feature, not a bug.
I
It is
do
possible
too, and
to
that's
hire,
where my
people into
agreement with
administration,
Whitney
of course, who
Tilson
have,
starts
the
and
experience
ends.
of running a big bureaucracy.
And it's annoying
I would
because
point
so
to Mike
often, like, I
Bloomberg as
do
my
believe that
inspiration
people without a
when I
political
decided to run
background
for
should
mayor.
run
He
for
had never
elected
held
office.
elected
That was a
office
big basis
before.
of my
I think he
campaign.
was one
That
of
being
our greatest
said,
mayors.
the only
He
type of
steered us
person we
through
really
the global
accept in that
financial
role these
crisis.
days are
And
rich
I
people,
believe
hedge
that
fund
having
managers,
someone like
high-level
him,
philanthropists,
who I
and that's
saw
what Whitney
was
Tilson is. And I'm
independent
like,
of all
that's
the
actually
special interests,
possibly worse
who
than a
in
politician.
a low turnout off-season primary like what we're having right now, only 5% of New Yorkers of our total population is probably going to be enough to win the primary, and effectively, and certainly last time was enough to win the mayoralty. So I think we need a mayor.
I think
who
we're
is
all. I
independent
don't
of
know that that's correct
inherently
either.
corrupting system,
do usually
who
see really
doesn't need
low
the job,
voter
who
turnout
isn't
for
angling for
municipal
higher,
elections here in
office,
New York City.
and
That
who
being
brings
said,
a
there's so much
business
heat on this
background,
race because of
which
the
I
big
think
name
is
of
more
Cuomo
relevant
and
to
because of this
managing one of the
rise of
world's
Zohran
largest
Mamdani.
bureaucracies.
So I think that's going to be really interesting to see how many people turn up at the polls. The last mayoral debate was watched by like 700,000 people, and only like 900,000 something people even voted in the last mayoral election. So it's a lot more heat on this race. A lot more at stake too, I think, with Donald Trump being president this time around.
But first, we'll get to a crucial question about the production of housing. We want you, the candidates, to
This is what I
address
want
New
to get to,
Yorkers with
actual
your top
New York
proposal
City
to ease
issues.
the housing crunch. And I'll start with you, Mr. Myrie. We know you've been vocal about a plan to build and preserve 1 million units of housing. You mentioned it earlier. Is that a realistic possibility given the current dynamics in the city?
And I believe Zohran Myrie, the New York Times, just ranked him #1 specifically for his stand for housing. They ranked everyone like by issue, and they voted him one for housing. They're not endorsing anyone
in the same
now.
neighborhood we grew up in, people are struggling. And we've had leaders of the past that have put their solutions forward, and things have only gotten worse. So yes, 1 million homes over the next 10 years, because we can't keep nibbling around the edges. That is the only way we're actually going to bring down the cost of housing. And listen, is it going to be challenging? Of course it's going to be challenging. But anything worth anything is going to be hard to do.
If he could really pull this off, I mean, it would be incredible.
And we did it 100 years ago. Come on already. Of course we can do
And housing
1 million
is,
homes.
I would argue, the #1 issue facing New York City right now, affordable housing.
Our industrial areas to residential. We have commercial real estate space that is laying vacant that can be converted as well. We have opportunities to revitalize NYCHA. We got to be bold in this moment, but we need the leadership and the courage to get it done, and that's what I'm going to do.
Thank you.
They also have a live audience here now, which they didn't have in the last debate, and it's just kind of annoying, and I don't like it, and it wastes time with the clapping and the hooting and the hollering.
It sounds ideal, but how would you pay for this expansive plan?
Okay, this is where we just got to have an honest conversation. I get $1 million. I could easily stay. We could do 2.5 million, given my experience and all.
And I
Put
think
that aside for a second.
Bothers me.
People need affordable housing now. They need low-income housing now. The way we do it is we take the 1,000 vacant lots. I audited as controller, and we give that land back to the people, to not-for-profits, to limited profit developers.
Agree
We
with
don't
that.
ask the luxury developers to build the low-end and affordable housing we need. We get a generation of people to come in and build the tens of thousands of units of housing. See, it's not just about building housing. The second question, or the
Does he
question
mean,
that
like,
I care
Habitat for
passionately about,
Humanity?
is who are we building housing for?
Who's
We
building
gotta build
it?
more housing, 2-, 3-bedroom apartments for families, so that after the second kid, they don't leave, they stay here. We need to
Correct.
do what we did with Mitchell-Lama housing, a housing stock that is the best practice in the world. We got to build more of that housing, integrated housing, because the people who moved into those buildings, you know what they did? They didn't just exist in those apartments. They built communities, schools, and daycare centers. And this is a promise I can keep while I'm alive, while I'm mayor, and we'll see what happens going forward. But let's
While
do
I'm
that
alive.
immediately on day one when I'm mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Lander, as
clapping for
mayor,
this
you
guy.
declare a
Ugh.
housing emergency which could help you build 500,000 homes, including on city-owned
100% a
golf
housing
courses. How do you
emergency
get the
should
citywide
be
support for this plan?
declared day one
So
for
the New
whoever
York Times opinion panel
becomes
today
mayor.
said I was the best choice for mayor because I combine clear and bold plans and a
Brad
real
Lander's
track
ideas
record
are
of
really
delivering
good.
that is especially true
He's
on housing. In
so
the neighborhood around the
unlikable.
Gowanus
It is
Canal, when I
so
was
hard.
council member, I organized the community to
The way
support
he
redevelopment.
speaks
More housing, more affordable housing is going up there than
kills
anywhere
me.
else in the city, and the
I
community
know I should rank 'em, but it's gonna be
because
hard.
it's coming with open space and affordable art studios, as well as 3,000 genuinely affordable homes. We're even fixing up the NYCHA units nearby. As controller, I saved the 35,000
just
rent-stabilized
feels so
units that were
fake.
put at
Why-
risk when
like-
Signature Bank failed by investing to buy the mortgages
How does a
on
human
them.
become
I know
like
how to
this?
do this. I have a detailed plan for getting 500,000
He does have good
units
plans,
built.
though.
That's around the Interborough
And a
Express, where we've got
and
new
a decent
opportunities
track
for
record.
transit-oriented development. And we can build great new neighborhoods on 4 of the city's 12 golf courses because people will be excited about courtyards for families, about daycare centers, about new
think that's a
schools
good
and
idea.
libraries, places they could own in neighborhoods they will love.
Thank you.
And that's kind of his signature idea, using all these golf courses
Mr.
to build
Cuomo,
housing
you
on, and I think
were
that's a
HUD
good plan.
Secretary, you were governor for more than a decade, you managed a nonprofit housing organization. What would you say to voters who wonder if all that experience might end up being, in the end, the wrong experience, since after decades of work, we've ended up in a housing emergency here in the city?
Ooh.
I would say, Errol, I would say, look at the results, right? Everyone has a plan. I have a plan, I have a plan. Everyone has a plan. They had a plan to build LaGuardia Airport. Nobody did it until I did it. They had a plan to build a new Moynihan train station, but nobody could do it until I did it. They had a plan to finish the 2nd Avenue subway, but nobody could do it until I could do it. Now we have
Listen,
plans
I think
to
it's
build
pretty hard to
affordable
be in
housing,
politics
and we
as long
do
as Andrew
need
Cuomo hasn't to come
hundreds
out
of thousands of units of
unscathed.
affordable
Almost every
housing,
New York
there's no
City
doubt, but we're
mayor
gonna need a
is
different
hated
model.
by
The
the end
city
of their
HPD does not work to
term
create this
as mayor.
The state housing program does not
That
work
being
to
said,
create this
Andrew
volume.
Cuomo
We're going to have to accelerate
has
the ULERP
done so
program,
many bad
and then we're going to have
things.
to open every
You can
option
get a
available.
pass for
NYCHA units,
one or two smaller
office to
errors.
residential
Obviously,
conversion.
you're a human,
Every city-owned
but
piece of
he's
property
taking it
we
too
have to
far.
look at
You
air
know,
rights.
on top of being
how
a
do we
nepo baby.
maximize it? We are going to have a full-on
And it's crazy for him to talk about experience. His political career started when he was the campaign manager for his dad's campaign at like 20-something, Mario Cuomo, and he had no experience, and that's how he started, and now he's here. So there's really no reason that Zohran Mamdani can't start, have his second job be mayor.
Ms. Adams, you mentioned the recent
I have plenty of
City
problems with
Yes
Zohran
rezoning that you were
Mamdani. His
instrumental in helping
inexperience
to
actually
pass.
is not one
It's
of them
supposed to
for me.
create tens of thousands of units of housing, but the experience of past rezonings, like the one in downtown Brooklyn,
These
suggests that it
people
can
act like
take
these
as long
jobs are
as
like
10 years
no
or
one can wrap
longer
their head
for
around it.
rezonings to
I've met
result in actual
I've met a lot of
construction.
people in
If you're
politics in the
elected
past
mayor,
several
what would
months.
be your
They're
plan
not
to get
geniuses.
units built
You can catch
more
up pretty
quickly than
quick.
that?
We're going to build it faster, and just to let Mr. Cuomo know, I've got a plan. It's already in the works. It is called the City
Everyone's trying to land jokes.
the City for All, something that I have already ushered in. So the work is already being done. We're hearing a lot of plans and policies, but this is something I'm already doing this work. We have already begun the works for the City for All, and in that proposal it is the most aggressive rezoning proposal in a generation for this city to build upwards of 82,000 affordable units for New Yorkers. We want to keep people here. I want my children to stay here. I'm an everyday New Yorker. I don't want them leaving because New York is not affordable for them. And so I have made sure that there is $5 billion that is put into the City for All
When we say we don't
proposal.
want people leaving, be very clear. We don't want native New Yorkers leaving. I think a lot of these people are like, yeah, the rest of the people.
We're going to make sure that communities like mine in Southeast Queens are protected, infrastructure is protected. We're going to make sure that we've got extended and expanded access to City FEPS vouchers. We're going to make sure that there are repairs available for NYCHA residents and Mitchell-Lama residents. And we're going to make sure that homeowners also have
so when we talk about
access to
affordable
funding
housing,
to
it's
make
not
sure
just the
that
creation of new
homeowners
affordable
have
housing.
repairs.
It's making
We
sure
won't
that
have to
these
look at
NYCHA units that
foreclosure in the
people live in
volume,
are
and we don't
actually
have to look at
livable,
deed
because the
theft in the
conditions are
volume.
so
I'm
bad in a
already
lot
doing
of
the
these
work.
units.
I'm already there.
Thank you.
And still on housing, and to bring the last two of you into it, Mr. Tilson, you said in the last debate that your housing construction plan is the opposite of Mr. Mamdani's. More private sector, less public. Can you elaborate on that in your 60 seconds, and then we'll hear Mr. Mamdani argue for his approach?
Sure. If I were to summarize my plan in 4 words, it'd be unleash the private sector. That is the only way to rapidly build anything like the scale that we're talking about. I said it's the opposite of his plan because his plan is to spend $100 billion city dollars to build affordable housing. So my plan, I don't think this should take 10 years if you truly do it. And it's not just zoning regs. It's all the whole bureaucracy going through the city government
Whitney
agencies.
Tilson's housing plan is kind of like what Ezra Klein pitched in
Austin, Texas is a good example. Their rents
Abundance,
went
and they
up
talk about there. It's basically
25%
like
in the year
these
2021.
left-leaning cities,
The city
we
leaped
create
into
less
action,
affordable
quickly
housing
changed
because
its
we have
zoning rules.
so
They increased
many
supply by 15% in 3 years,
protections
and rents
in
dropped by
place that nothing
20%.
ever
I don't
gets
just want to
done.
stabilize rent.
And
I
so
think we can
his
drop
plan's
rents
kind
in
of
this
like
city.
just plow through,
That's
plow
the objective.
forward,
But
which
right now,
there
it's
like there
outrageous
is
that
there are
businesses and real estate
statistics
developers have
and
to hire expediters
information to
deal
back
with
up
the
what
city
he's
bureaucracy.
saying.
So it's a much bigger problem, and the mayor controls.
But we don't want
most,
to
or all of this.
kowtow to luxury developers. That can't be the only solution.
I met a grandmother in a senior center in Brownsville, and she came up
I
to
don't
me
know
and
why
told me that
Zohran
she'd been on
started
a
doing
waiting
these
list
dumb
for 7
Democratic
years for
anecdotes.
senior
I
housing,
hate these.
and that she wasn't sure if she was going to be able to stay in the city any longer.
I don't know
The
why
reason
people
that my
like
campaign
these. I hate. Maybe
is
if you
committing
comment if you
to
like
building
these
200,000
anecdotes. I don't
truly
like them.
affordable homes is because if we don't, we will lose the very New Yorkers who built this city. And we will lose them unless we rapidly scale up the programs
Native
we already
Yorkers.
have. Programs in HPD like SARA, Senior Affordable Rental Apartments, ELA, extremely low-level affordability, the very kind of programs that are built for the New Yorkers who are being priced out of the market. And we do this while also ensuring that it is easier to build even for the private sector. We end the requirement to build parking. We end this piecemeal approach that we've taken, instead having a city-wide comprehensive planning approach. These are the kinds of ways in which we can actually ensure that we start to build more than 4 houses per 1,000 people, that we actually start to get up to Jersey City and Tokyo and build the housing that's necessary in this city.
To finish this round, by a show of hands, I will translate for the radio audience, how many of you would support a rent-stabilized rent freeze this year? Hands up if you do. Okay, the ones whose hands are up are Stringer, Myrie, Mamdani, and Lander. Not up.
Can you restate the question, please?
Would you support
Andrew Cuomo didn't hear the question.
To freeze the rent.
in the rent
I believe Andrew Cuomo did say that he would
year,
freeze
rent freeze this
rent
year.
stabilized
Yes or no,
units,
Mr.
right?
Cuomo?
Would I vote for a rent freeze this year?
Yes.
I'd leave it to the Rent Guidelines Board.
Who controls them?
No.
The mayor.
We appoint them, the law controls them. You should read it
Ms.
once in a
Adams, your
while.
hand
The law
was
didn't
not-
control you, did it?
You should read it.
Ms. Adams, your hand was not up, was it? Why not? Oh, it was
There has
raised.
to be a balance there,
So
though,
only
between the
Mr.
homeowners as well,
Tilson's
though.
hand was not up. Okay, that was a yes or no. And finally, also on a show of hands, on rent freeze or no, a listener to my show asks, would you be open to tying rent increases to landlord rates of return, their profits, rather than simply on 1 year's costs? Yes or no if you're open to tying the increases to profits rather than 1 year's cost increase. Who would say yes to that change or that proposal? I don't see any hands.
Brian, it is part of the formula already.
It's part of the formula.
It is part of the formula. Now, you look at a variety of factors, including net operating income relative to costs, as it should be.
Mr. Lander is right. That is the law. You look at the costs that the landlord is incurring.
So Lander
and
actually
that's
knew the
how you set
information, and then
rent
Cuomo just said
increase if you
yes
do.
anded him and
But also the
reiterated
profits.
exactly what Lander already just explained.
Profit
But it's
margins.
Yeah, they do an
actually crazy
economic
that the
analysis. That's
moderator
what the rent
asked a
guidelines board
question
does.
that didn't really make sense in the
Thank you.
context.
This question is for Mr. Cuomo because it didn't come up earlier. Many voters are grappling with how to disqualify you or not after the sexual harassment findings that led to your resignation as governor. How do you argue people should consider that factor? And we'll let the other candidates give their take.
Yeah.
Good, I'm glad they're asking this.
I would ask them to look at the facts and not the political rhetoric that you hear on the
I read
stage.
every single
I
court
said when the
filing
report was issued,
filed
it
against
was
Andrew
all
Cuomo,
political.
just so you guys know.
That's what I said. And I said nothing was going to come of it. 4 years later, we've had 5 district attorneys, Democrat, Republicans, upstate, downstate. They've all looked at them. Nothing has come of them whatsoever.
He still has pending cases
There's
against
been
him
one
right
civil
now,
case
which
that's
is why I
been
don't trust that
resolved.
he's
I
not
was
going to
dropped
become
from the
in cahoots
case.
with Donald Trump, because
So
Donald Trump can
absolutely
get him out of it
nothing
easily.
has
We already saw it
come
happen with Eric
except
Adams, and I think
political
Andrew
fodder
Cuomo
for
was
my
like,
opponents
I smell a way to get out of
political
legal
fodder
trouble.
at the time.
Let me run for mayor.
Do any other candidates want to chime in?
Andrew, you admitted at the time that you called a 25-year-old staffer into your office and asked her questions about whether she'd had older partners and whether she was available, and intimated that you were looking for a partner. Everybody here knows that you sexually harassed women, that you created a toxic work environment. We're here with all these CUNY students, many of them young women. I went to the City College commencement. The valedictorian is going to come work at the Department of Homeless Services. I don't want to have to tell her, don't go work at City Hall because the mayor is a sexual harasser.
Damn. Wow,
Those
that
are
New York
just
Times
bold-faced
semi-endorsement really
lies.
ignited
You know,
Lander.
And it's frightening that you can look at a camera and lie
Right now, I'm
that
looking
easily.
at you. You admitted it at the time.
I never said that. I never said that. And by the way, that has been totally disproven by every court that has looked at it. Every
Courts don't
legal
disprove
proceeding.
things. Everyone
yes,
knows.
yes, they do, sir.
They
A
don't.
report was issued. The DAs looked at it.
Yeah.
They all disagree with you. I was dropped from the case. So
It's also
those are the
hilarious
facts.
for
Biden
someone to
Justice
say
Department and the
that
Attorney
sexual
General of the
like
state of New
harassment
York, and again, it
has
was
been
reported that you
disproven,
admitted
because
at
it's
the
one party
time
against the other. You
it
can't
was a mistake
disprove it
to
unless there's
find
video
25-year-old
footage.
into your
Yeah.
office. Folks can check the record.
And the Attorney
folks
General.
know if he worked for you, you would fire him.
Hang on. Attorney General's just for me.
Just wrap up. Yeah.
The Attorney General's report was determined by a court to be hearsay and not a finding at all. I understand Mr. Lander is just a part.
Yeah, sexual harassment is always hearsay. A fine, like, what are you talking about?
The district attorneys looked at all those complaints, and not a single
All right,
case
we're going in
was
circles. We're going to
Maybe
move on,
you know
candidates.
better than the facts.
I'm actually stunned. Right now, today a poll came out where Mamdani was actually polling better than Cuomo. It's the first time this happened, and I'm really astonished that Andrew Cuomo didn't prepare better for this. I mean, Zohran, I would say, is almost overly prepared. Everything seems like really rehearsed and like a monologue, but it's sharp and we get the information. Cuomo's just kind of like up there winging it.
The number of complaints about disorderly conduct in New York City have nearly tripled compared to the pre-pandemic year of 2018. Arrests for disorderly conduct have risen significantly, but New Yorkers still say they are less satisfied about their quality of life than in the past. So we're going to start with you, Mr. Lander. Do you want the NYPD to address quality of life violations, or is there some other way to do it? And how would you address concerns about quality of life without violating constitutional rights or opening the door to accusations of illegal profiling?
As mayor, my #1 priority will be to end street homelessness for people with serious mental illness. When I talk to people about what's influencing their quality of life, what would they like changed? They would like to be able to get on the subway and feel safer. Last week I talked about a friend whose middle school student was pushed to the ground by a mentally ill homeless person. But we don't have to be a city where a couple thousand of our mentally ill neighbors sleep on subway platforms and the sidewalks and stoops of our buildings. And yes, of course, NYPD have a role to play in keeping neighborhoods safe, getting guns off the street, but no amount of policing is going to connect a homeless mentally ill person to the housing and services that they actually need. The plan that will is called Housing First. It's working in Houston and Denver and Salt Lake City. We used it here.
And that's what you like to see. Like a lot of my platform policy was things that I had seen work in other smaller cities that definitely could be applied to New York City. So I love that that's the same kind of idea Brad Lander has for housing / the mental health crisis.
The issue of quality of life. And to me, as someone who has spent his entire life here, who's
And
raising
even though
kids
Brad
here,
Lander annoys me when he talks, I will be ranking him because I do think that he
trash.
is one of
They
the
don't
top
want to live
5
with
people
broken
most
sidewalks.
fit
They
for
don't
the
want
job.
a 311 system that can't resolve the basic day-to-day issues that New Yorkers face. We've gotten away from that kind of work. You know, swagger to me is different than swagger at City Hall today. Swagger means I feel satisfied when we help somebody get the services we need. How I'm going to do it specifically, we got to have a deputy mayor for quality of life and institute what I call quality stat, meaning there's a lot of agencies apart from the police that actually are responsible for the day-to-day running of the city and resolving complaints and issues. We need to measure that. We need to look at the data at 311. We need to do the follow-ups. I'm going to be the mayor in the Ed Koch mode that comes to town hall meetings and communities just like Ed did as controller.
Stringer,
roll my sleeves
comparing
up,
him
go
to
in front of
Ed
hundreds
Koch.
of people
Listen,
and say, let me have it.
I watched
What
the
do
Ed
you
Koch
want? What's going on?
documentary
And I
and
will
read a
resolve the
lot
complaint
of
in 24 hours.
about Ed
That's
Koch's
the kind
work as
of
mayor of New York
that we
City,
need
and
in
he
the city
had
to
a
keep
lot of
people
great
here
plans and
and
a
to
lot
make
of
sure
great
that we become
achievements.
the beacon
And
of
as
the greatest
you
city
know,
of the
I would
world.
argue one of the mayors that
Mr. Mamdani.
people remember fondly. Although some members of the black
across
community
the
would
5
definitely
boroughs,
disagree
what I
on
hear
that, so I
time and
want
time
to
again
make
are
that
these very kinds of complaints.
known.
Complaints
But
around
Scott
the
Stringer is
cleanliness
no
of our
Ed
streets,
Koch.
complaints around whether the parks that they love can actually be maintained. And so many of them come back to a mayoral administration that has underfunded city agencies time and time again, literally requesting to take garbage cans off of sidewalks. That's what we have had for the last 4 years. I'm proud to have been endorsed by DC 37, the single largest labor union representing municipal workers in this city. The people who run this city trust me to lead this city. And what I will do is fully fund each one of those agencies to ensure that we are not just providing public service, we're providing public excellence so that each and every New Yorker is finally receiving the quality of life that they deserve living in this city.
Okay. And so, Mr. Myrie,
That was more a question about
really in a lot of
safety,
ways, what I'm
though.
getting at is that the city government and a lot of voters, frankly, will reflexively reach for the NYPD as the best tool to handle what they perceive as disorder, which some people say is kind of a stepping stone towards crime, or in some ways a precursor to it. What's your take on that, and how would you handle it?
Yeah, let me first say, Scott, you got a little bit of swagger. You got some sneakers on today, so I don't want you to discount yourself.
By the way, I got it from you.
All right, very good. So let me say this.
Politicians
Look, I
joking
walk the
around
streets, I take the
literally
subways
kills
just
me.
like you do. And part of the reason that people are frustrated with politics is because you walk the streets, you take the subways, and then you listen to folks on this stage, and it's completely divorced from your reality. Here's what I want to do.
But I think his
we
owner
need
must have
police
watched the
and
footage
clinician
back
teams
from the
in our
last
subways and
mayoral
our
debate and was
streets
like, why do I sound like a
24/7
freaking
to get people
robot?
on
And
a
he's
path
made
to real
adjustments,
recovery.
so
New
good for
Yorkers
him on
are
that.
compassionate
But
people,
he should have
but we
already
wanna
known how
ensure
he
that
appears
people are
on camera
actually getting
before
that
we got
help.
to the
So I want
debates.
stabilization centers in every borough so that we can deliver that help. Public safety requires us to do two things. We understand that police officers are necessary, but we also have to invest in the things we know.
You know, and they
prevent
talked
crime
earlier
and
about
disorder in the
like
first
New
place.
Yorkers, like if
That's
we
why
see
I want
something wrong,
50,000 more
it's going
summer
to be
youth
kind of our
jobs,
jerk
so that it is
reaction
universal.
to
We
call
have no young
911.
person on
Well,
a
part
waiting
of the
list,
job of the mayor, in
waiting
my
list. Stop
opinion,
telling our
is
kids
public
what not to do without
education.
giving them
We have a lot
something
of
to do.
services
I want
available in New
universal
York, and not a
after-school
lot
as
of people
well,
know
so that
about
we can
these
have a safe place
services.
to
So
be
we have
and have
to
our
use
families have a
technology
place where their
to spread
children can stay.
information
Okay.
and
Mr.
the
Tilson.
availability of services that knowledge to New Yorkers. We
Yes,
have
to
no
answer your
excuse
question
in
directly
2025.
about enforcing more quality of life issues. For
Every New
example,
Yorker
I
can
ride my
literally get a
bike
text
almost every day in the
message
city. The
that says,
e-bikes
dial
are
this number
fast
if you
and
see
dangerous,
someone
and
going
we're
under
riding up on the sidewalks, blowing through red lights,
having a
and
mental
cops
health
started
crisis
enforcing it, and I
rather
can
than
tell you,
the
being out there every day,
NYPD.
they're now obeying the law. That is the
The
kind
mayor
of thing
should be
that contributes to
constantly in
the
contact
feeling
with the
of
people
lack of safety.
of New York City,
I
not
will
just when
say
it's time to
that
get their vote.
what I would not do is demonize the police by calling them wicked and corrupt, by threatening to defund and dismantle them, as
the
Zohran
police
has done.
are corrupt.
And we're at a 34-year low in the number of
I mean,
police
at this point, we
officers.
all
There's only
know,
one
so
candidate
to
on this
not
stage,
say
him,
they're
who has
corrupt
not said that he
makes
would
it
try
seem
and build
like
that number
you're
back up.
corrupt.
So I think his
That doesn't mean
Department of
every
Community
individual
Safety, which he
officer
talks
is
about,
corrupt.
is
It means
just
the
backdoor
institution
code word
is
for
corrupt.
continue to defund the police. They are demoralized. They are understaffed.
That's
and,
true, though. They need to.
we've
The
created a
officers need to be
revolving
paid
door where
better
an
and treated
officer
with
at the
respect, because I
Midtown North
think that
Precinct,
will
very
help
close to here,
make
actually
them
told me
treat
she is
the
still
people
filling
that they
out the
are
paperwork for most of her
paid
arrests,
to and
the
hired
criminals
to
back out
serve
onto the street before she's finished.
better.
Did you want to respond?
I want to say it very clearly, because both Mr. Tilson and Andrew Cuomo's Republican billionaire donors have been lying about me on our television screens and right now. I will not defund the police. I will work with the police because I believe the police have a critical role to play in creating public service, public safety. And fundamentally, when I put together our proposal for the Department of Community Safety, it was built upon the many conversations I had with rank and file officers who had told me that they signed up to join the department to take on serious crimes. And yet what they were being asked to do is play the roles of mental health professionals and social workers. And that
Huge
is part of the
problem in
reason
New
why
York.
65% of crimes in the first quarter of this year are still not solved. We need to ensure police can focus on those crimes, and we have mental health professionals and social workers to address and tackle and resolve
One of my
the mental health
favorite
crisis and
stats
homelessness.
from Eric Adams' term as mayor is murders down, rapes up.
Whitney, did you not talk about my police retention plan, or you didn't?
Come on, Scott. Ms. Adams, I want to bring you in the conversation because you were at City Hall when the funding question came up that has been interpreted by some as defund the police. What was happening then in that particular session with that particular proposal? And if you're elected, what would
And they're
you
all
do
going
about this
down
question
Zohran's
of
throat about this
where
because
and
he
when
has old
and
tweets
if
that say
the police
defund
get
the
involved
police.
in quality of life policing?
Thank you for asking the clarifying question, Errol, very much. The
But I think that's something that a lot of
2021
people
budget
said, and then
season
kind
was
of
a very,
realized it
very
wasn't
tough
feasible,
season for the
who
New
are
York City
super
Council and
left.
quite frankly for the mayoral administration as well. We were still masked up in the pandemic, and New York City was
And
very,
not feasible
very
because they realized the
underfunded
majority of
as a
people
city.
want
we were
some sort
looking
of
towards going in the hole,
police
if you will.
system.
So several city
Want someone to
agencies
call.
had to take a haircut. The NYPD was one of those agencies, as were many, many city agencies. Heck, the New York City Council, we had to take a haircut. So there was funding reallocation that happened across the board for New York City because of the pandemic. So, I mean, services were cut. Many folks out there realized that some of park services were cut and other services were cut as well, unfortunately. So that was the climate that we were in, quite frankly, during the pandemic season.
That's fair.
As mayor, though, I know that New York City is fiscally found. Our issue right now is going to be Trump-proofing the New York
found?
City.
Does she mean fiscally sound?
Trump-proofing New York
I'm
City, which I am doing right now as one who is negotiating the 4th New York City budget, something that no one else on this stage can say. And we've
And
already
that's
put
important
aside in
because one of the
reserves through my
major
leadership
roles
on the
of the
council,
mayor
$1.9
is
billion
allocating
to begin
funds
to protect
for
the people of the city
the
of
year,
New York from
deciding
Donald
the budget,
Trump's harsh
deciding
cuts. We want
where
the
New York's
administration to not
massive
match us,
budget,
go
how it
above
gets
us.
allocated,
We're going to need
and
to
you
make
need to know
sure
how
that
to
our
do that.
resources are protected,
But
that
this is another thing that
nonprofits are
everyone acts like
protected,
this is
that
the
our
most
children,
difficult
our
thing to do.
seniors, our health care is protected. And
You can
as
figure it
leader of the
out.
City Council, I've already made a start in doing just that.
All right, thank you. Mr. Cuomo.
How will I allocate the
If we
budget?
wonder why the
You can
people
figure it out.
watching this are frustrated, is because of the disconnect of what they're hearing. They are afraid on the streets. They feel unsafe. You can quote statistics all day long. They get afraid walking into the subway. They get afraid walking down the street when they see a mentally ill homeless person. We did defund the police. We did. We cut $1 billion from the police. People on this stage said,
I don't think that's
defund
defunding the police.
That was the chant. And $1 billion was
That's
taken from the police
That's not
department.
exactly what they meant.
Mr. Mamdani says
Defund
he would
meant, like-
dismantle the police.
Yeah.
That's his expression. Mr. Lander said, I'll admit, progressives like me were slow to recognize the problems of crime and quality of life and mopeds.
See, it's not so
and
difficult to
weed.
take responsibility, is it?
That's what he said, that they were slow to realize the crime that people
buddy.
were living with. We have to get back to safety. I would add 5,000
Sorry, my
police
dog
officers.
thinks that
Yes,
someone
we
buzzed the
need
door.
mental health professionals
Alfred,
who also
stop.
help work with the mentally ill, and they're two totally separate things. But this city has to be safe. Opportunity for youth is part of it. But if people don't feel safe, Errol, they're not going to stay. End of story.
Okay, real quick.
Yeah, I mean, I think New Yorkers want accountability. They want accountability when people commit crimes. They want accountability when officers use excessive force. They want accountability when top brass violate their office. And they want accountability from elected officials. So yes, I said we were slow to reckon with rising disorder. Here's how I'm going to actually deliver it. You've never taken responsibility for one single thing you've done wrong in your entire life. Not one single thing. You should try it sometime.
Okay, Ms. Adams, real quick.
Yeah, I just want to clear up the whole defund mystery here that keeps on being used as far as the New York City Council and the FY 2021 budget is concerned. Let's just be clear. The budget is negotiated with the mayoral administration. The NYPD is a part of the mayoral administration, and the reallocation of funds was done with the knowledge of the NYPD, not in any far-off land, far, far away. I don't know how long you've been out of it, Mr. Cuomo, but it's been a while. So I just want to make sure that we are clear here tonight. Old slogans and scare tactics aren't going to make anybody in New York City safer.
Okay, candidates.
And so just so we're really clear on what
Candidates, we're
defund
gonna
the
move on
police
to
by
our lightning
definition
round. That's
means.
where
It's
each
the
candidate will
advocating
answer
of the
our questions with a
reallocating
brief
of funds from
response,
police
usually
departments
yes
to
or no.
non-policing forms of
I'm sure
public
with a
safety
show
and
of
community
hands,
support
despite
initiatives
changes in
such as
technology,
social
do you still
services,
have
youth
a Metro
programs,
card
housing,
in your
education,
wallet?
healthcare, and other
Show
community
of hands.
resources.
Mr.
Just because they took
Myrie,
money away
Mr.
from the police
Cuomo, Ms.
department doesn't
Adams
mean they
still have the Metro
reallocated it
card.
in that
God
way.
bless
You'd
you.
have to look into how they reallocated the budget. That being said, there is a lot of background to say that does work when you reallocate the funds to like youth-oriented and community-based services.
Lightning.
There's so many to choose from.
Just one.
I think there's a lot of fat to cut in the DOE budget, but there are other areas I would invest more in.
DOE means Department of Education, not the Board of Elections. Mr. Stringer.
As controller, I
Cutting money
identified
from the education system in New York
efficiencies
is
every city agency
great.
to make them more run better and efficient. So it's not about
That's
cutting
why
or
people
targeting one
asked.
agency. It's really about doing due diligence in all the agencies. Sorry
Mr. Myrie.
Yeah, I think New Yorkers experience city services every day. It's not about who has what, it's about how we're delivering. So I think it's important that we are efficient in that. I think we can shift some funding from the Economic Development Corporation to our city's general
Okay,
fund.
Mr. Mamdani.
I think we have to end our city's addiction to consulting and contracts. We're currently paying McKinsey millions of dollars to design a trash can. We don't have to do that.
Mr. Lander.
Last year, we paid out $2 billion in claims against the city. I'll put them on the books of city agencies so they have an incentive
So
to
if anyone
reduce
was
them.
really
They can
cool
keep
and
half
this is
the
what I was
savings.
planning
It's
on
hundreds
doing,
of
I was
millions of
going to
dollars
say
we can
that
save.
I was
Mr.
going to
Cuomo.
cut my
City government
own
hasn't been properly managed in
salary
12 years.
by
It needs an
$50,000, but then
overhaul
also
from
the
top to
salary of
bottom.
everybody
That's what I think
else
has
in
to be done.
higher
Where'd you
level
start? Where would you
positions,
start?
and they were going to hate
I
that.
think if housing is a top priority, I would start with HPD
Also,
because that's
you'd
one of the
need
first
to
jobs we
earn
have to
a
start.
lot more money in other ways.
You know, I'm still negotiating the city budget,
For
the
the
only
city.
one on the stage that's doing this thing. So let's just be real about it. The mayor actually implemented pegs that took away headcount for many, many city agencies. So I don't think that we're in the space right now to cut anything. We do need to reform and revamp city agencies. So what we need to do is take a look at, as was said, contracts. We've got a lot of bloated contracts out there, primarily because of the cronyism under Eric Adams.
Ooh.
In this lightning round, just 3 yes or no questions from me. Is it logistically possible, Ms. Adams first, to close Rikers by 2027? Yes or no?
No.
Mr. Cuomo?
No, the law is a joke.
Mr. Lander?
Not a joke, but not by 2027 either.
Mr. Mamdani?
No, Eric Adams has made it functionally impossible.
Mr. Myrie?
No, but it needs to close.
Mr. Stringer?
No.
And Mr. Tilson?
No, not by 2032 either.
We'll go the other order on yes or no. Do you support an expansion of red light cameras, Mr. Tilson?
Absolutely.
Mr. Stringer?
Yes.
Absolutely, and I voted for it in Albany.
Thank you, Mr. Myrie. Mr. Mamdani?
Yes, and unlike Andrew Cuomo, I know you can't turn right on red in New York City.
He's making a joke like that because
yes,
Andrew Cuomo
and
has
with real
not lived in New York City
accountability
for
for
30
drivers
years.
who
He's lived in Westchester.
Cuomo?
Yes.
Ms. Adams? And one more. We'll start in the middle with Mr. Mamdani. Have you ever voted for a Republican?
No.
Mr. Myrie?
I have not, but I voted for a Democrat that ended up caucusing with the Republicans. That's why I ran for state senate in the 2018.
Mr. Stringer? Ever voted for a Republican, Mr. Stringer?
Never in my life.
Mr. Tilson?
Sure, Bloomberg.
Ms. Adams?
No.
Mr. Cuomo? No. And Mr. Lander? No.
This first question, it's a two-parter. I'll start with you, Mr. Tilson. What is your favorite park or playground in the city, and would you, as mayor, commit to at least 1% of the city budgets going to the Parks Department?
Elizabeth Street Garden, and yes.
I raised 3 daughters in the city. They're now in their 20s. Shout out to my youngest, graduating from college in 2 days, actually. And I ran the Daddy Olympics in Central Park every day. We circled the park and had a number of favorite playgrounds. I'd say the favorite we called Playground Number 1, which is at 96th and 5th. And I've actually called for permanently making the parks budget 1% of the city budget, so it increases with the city's budget. Their parks are our gems.
Mr. Stringer.
1% for parks because every kid deserves outdoors, and
1% is
sure
extremely low
parks,
compared to other major
but look, my favorite
cities.
park is where the kids want to play. So if it's on a basketball court, I'm there. If it's Central Park, I'm there.
Right now we have
Park, I'm there. I have no
0.5% of the
decision-making at this.
budget
It's all up to
allocated to parks, which is a joke.
Mr. Myrie.
My favorite park is Prospect Park, and my parents...
Like Brad Lander just was like snapped. It's just like, just don't do things like that so I can vote for you.
My parents are here in the audience with us, and it is where I learned how to ride a bike. It is where they took me throughout my childhood. So I absolutely would commit to 1%.
I'm really pleasantly
to our
surprised with
city's parks. It's a
Zelnor
shame
Myrie's
that we have
improved
not done that
performance in
already.
this debate.
Mr. Mamdani.
I would absolutely commit 1% of the city budget to the Parks Department. I'm proud to have done so over the course of this campaign, and I have to say that my favorite park is Astoria Park.
Mr. Lander.
Zelnor Myrie is right on this question. Prospect Park is the best park in New York City, and my kids are here, and they played baseball and learned to ride their bikes, and I was just at the Celebrate Brooklyn concert opening. Yes, we'll do 1%, but we've got to focus it on the parks that need it most. I passed a law that helps us do that, and as mayor, I'll make sure we focus on those parks
Which
that
are
have been
the
way too long
uptown parks?
neglected.
When we're talking about Harlem and higher, these people, they talk about parks and they don't concentrate on, anything past like 100th Street. So frustrating.
My favorite park is Cunningham Park in Queens, and 1%, but let's get conservancy set up for all the parks.
Ms. Adams.
We definitely have to get to the 1%. We've been fighting in the council for as long as I've been in the council to get there. My favorite park has to be Baisley Pond Park in Jamaica, Queens, of course. That's my district, my park. But we got to get rid of those Phragmites.
And this is a quick one. It's a 1- or 2-word answer. I'll start with you, Ms. Adams. Which borough have you spent the least amount of time in?
Staten Island.
Staten Island is going to be everyone's answer, except for Cuomo, maybe.
I would say Staten Island.
Mr. Lander?
Staten Island.
Mr. Mamdani? Uh-oh.
The beacon of free transit, Staten Island.
Mr. Myrie?
I'd say Staten Island.
Mr. Stringer?
I've been doing this. I've been everywhere.
So no, all equal?
They're all equal, including Staten Island.
Mr. Tilson? It was almost a sweep.
Okay.
Yeah, I was like, everyone's answer is Staten Island. Any real New Yorker's answer is Staten Island, unless you live on Staten Island or you're a cast member of Impractical Jokers.
This election will require New Yorkers to rank their candidates We want to take a moment to explain how ranked choice voting works, courtesy of the Campaign Finance Board. The debate will continue
yeah, 'cause they can be
in just a
trusted.
few minutes.
All right, we're taking a little break right now. Thank you so much for joining me here. And give yourself a pat on the back for caring about municipal politics. Not enough people do, and it's, in my opinion, where corruption festers.
A way that gives voters more choices and can
Okay, so I'm going to be quiet now
winners.
because I want you to understand ranked choice voting. It's really important.
Ranked choice voting. 74% of New York voters chose to use it in primary and special elections for city offices: mayor, public advocate, comptroller, borough president, and city council. You won't see ranked choice voting in general elections or elections for state or national offices. But in ranked choice voting elections, you can now rank up to 5 of your favorite candidates for each office. Here's how ranked choice voting works. On your ballot, you'll see candidates listed in rows and numbered rankings in columns. Pick your first choice and completely fill in the oval next to their name under the first column. Like always, you can just vote for your one favorite candidate and submit your ballot. But you might like several
Don't do
people.
that. Rank all 5 candidates.
If you have a second choice, fill in the oval next to their name under the second column. Do the same thing for your third, fourth, and fifth choices if you have them. A few don'ts. Don't rank the same candidate more than once. It won't help them, and it takes away your chance to rank the others who are running. Don't give the same rank to multiple candidates. It could disqualify your ballot. Don't worry. This is a new process, and you can always ask a poll worker for help or for a new ballot if you make a mistake. So, how do ballots get counted with ranked choice voting? If one candidate gets more than 50% of everyone's first choice votes, they win the election right away. That's it. If no candidate gets more than 50%, ballots will be counted in rounds. Round by round, the candidate with the fewest votes is eliminated. So, if your top-rated candidate is eliminated, your vote goes to your next highest choice. This keeps going until only 2 candidates remain. The person with the most votes wins. Ranked choice voting is already popular in many cities around the country because voters find that it helps more voices be heard. Now it's our turn. Get answers to your questions and learn more at nyccfb.info/RCV.
So it's only our second time as a city using ranked choice voting for the mayoral election. In theory, it's supposed to be like the city coming to agreement on a candidate that we can all live with. But a lot of people joke that it means everyone is unhappy with the choice. So we'll see.
Welcome back to our Democratic primary debate for mayor, live from John Jay College of Criminal Justice. We're more than halfway through the debate with the 7 leading Democratic candidates. Now it is time for the cross-examination round. That's when each candidate gets a chance to ask one question of one rival. Our order was selected at random, and we'll begin with Scott Stringer.
Thank you, Earl. My question is for Adrian Adams. So during the City of Yes negotiations, you successfully brought billions of dollars in benefits and opportunity on top of City of Yes. As you know, I've been campaigning because I really do believe we can have a realistic opportunity to take those parcels of land and turn them into affordable housing. Do you envision, or would you sort of signal that that idea could be coupled with funding, the funding that you obtain when you start thinking about your own implementing your own housing agenda if you were mayor?
Well, Scott, thank you for the question, and thank you for recognizing that I have ushered in billions of dollars for housing for the people of the city of New York. Thank you for that. As mayor, I would be open to any feasible option of housing, expanding it for the people of the city of New York. We got to continue this. My work has just been the floor and not the ceiling.
So this is an
I'm more than
opportunity
willing
for candidates
to expand on the
in
great
every
work
moment,
that I'm still doing.
You
as
have
city
to
council
be
speaker.
performing for the
Thank you.
people of New York City. And Scott Stringer just asked a question that was so complicated.
Have seen,
but half the people on the
past
stage
2
probably didn't
decades,
even fully understand
200,000
that.
Black New
It was a
Yorkers
missed
leave this
opportunity.
city. We know that this is a top issue for most New Yorkers, the cost of living here. And I'm wondering if you can talk to us about ushering through the City of Yes and what implications that has for Black New Yorkers who are struggling to stay in this city, and what we could be building on going forward.
Love the question. Thank you very much, Senator. And again, thank you for referencing the City of Yes championed by the City Council Speaker, Adrienne Adams. Thank you so much. Yeah, within the proposal, which the City Council renamed City for All, we've built in financial safeguards for Black families, many of whom I'm sure, as you know also, we've seen leave our city in droves over the past 2 decades.
The fact that the first two candidates asked their question to Adrienne Adams makes it feel like this is a strategy where they all agreed to do this, because there's no way they didn't know that this was one of the debate questions.
Homeowners in disrepair
Candidates are
can
usually
repair their
briefed
homes.
before
That is built
forums
in through
and
the
debates about
financing. We've also
generally
built in,
what's going to be going on.
repairs for NYCHA families, for Mitchell-Lama residents as well. Rochdale Village is a Mitchell-Lama, the second largest Mitchell-Lama in the city of New York within my own district. So we have built in financial safeguards to protect our Black families, families of color, from leaving New York. This is something, again, I live in a Black family. I don't want my children to leave, so this is for their protection as well.
Thank you. Mr. Tilson.
Yeah, Zohran, you're a proud member of the Democratic Socialists of America. You refer to each other as comrade. And right now on the DSA's website, it calls for the government ownership of all major industries, to decriminalize all misdemeanors, including theft and assault, to empty our prisons, and to disarm, dismantle, and defund the police. So your words are very reassuring, but this is what I read from your people, and I wonder if you will disavow this or implement it as mayor.
I don't like Wilton Tilson, but that was a good point.
Yes, like David Dinkins, I am a member of the organization, and the organization's platform is not the platform of this campaign. The platform of this campaign is the one you can find on the website at zohranfornyc.com. That's a platform that is going to deliver an affordable city.
I disagree. We've seen time and time again anyone who is run by a candidate run by the Democratic Socialists of America, i.e. AOC, must do their bidding. That's how he got to this position. He would never have been able to get to the position he is now without their support.
And that we can follow the example, the
which is fine, but like, let's call a spade a spade.
And start to divert those mental health calls.
And the DSA gets very mad when you start not to do their bidding. They turn their back for a period of time on AOC because of that.
Okay. Next is from Ms. Adams.
Yes. Thank you. I was looking for Errol to look up because he's confusing me. Oh, okay. Thank you. I have a question for Assemblymember Mamdani. I know how to pronounce your name.
Thank you very much, Speaker Adams.
Assemblymember, I've raised a family in New York. I have over 20 years of experience in the private sector. I have led the City Council through many, many challenges. Taken this city through 3 successful budgets and billions of dollars in city budgets now, working on our 4th, which will also be successful.
A clean, clear, concise question. It's not hard.
I've been continuing this work for a number of years on the City Council.
So frustrating.
In a recent New York Times article, you said that you were the most qualified person to be mayor of the city of New York. Given what I've just laid out, do you think you're more qualified than me to lead the city?
I very much appreciate your work and your leadership and your track record, Speaker. I think that each one of us on this stage will say that we are the most qualified to lead this city, because if we didn't believe that, then
obviously
we would have no business running for mayor.
Exactly. Great point, Zohran.
Because I believe the most pressing crisis we're facing here is one of affordability. And that is something that my campaign has been laser focused on, and that is why I'm proud to say that we are going to address it by freezing the rent for millions of rent-stabilized tenants.
So if what you notice, Zohran is really well trained.
By delivering universal child care to each and every New York family.
Perhaps because he comes from an entertainment business family, but he just keeps reiterating the same points of his campaign. People can only take in so much, and that's part of the secret to the success of his campaign. It's a really smart move.
His father, Norman, died because of your disastrous order sending people with COVID into nursing homes. Then, as you admitted this week, you personally altered the state health department report to undercount the death total, to hide the death total, and then evaded and lied to
Why
these
would you
families
laugh
for
during that,
5
Cuomo?
years.
Oh
So
my
tonight,
God.
will you finally apologize to Peter and other grieving New Yorkers, or will you just keep... Or will you just keep gaslighting them with blather about what a great job you claim you did?
Maybe where you come from in St. Louis, facts don't matter. But here they do. So let's talk about that. First of all, on nursing homes, 1.2 million people died of COVID in the United States. It's horrendous. 83,000 people died in New York State. It is horrendous. It was a pandemic unlike anything we have ever seen. When it comes to nursing homes, we now know the facts because numerous studies have been done. New York State implemented the federal guidance set by CMS, CDC, Dr. Fauci. We implemented it, other states implemented it. That has been proven over and over and over again. When you look at the total death
people are so fickle with politicians because, like, at the beginning of COVID, everyone loved Andrew Cuomo.
States.
Like, New Yorkers loved Andrew Cuomo and his handling of it in the beginning. Very similar to Rudy Giuliani, right? Immediately post 9/11, and now
does not give enough
Rudy
credit to the
Giuliani is
women
the
and men in
laughing
those
stock
nursing
of
homes who
America.
worked so hard. Mr. Arbini lost a father. I am very, very sorry for that. He brought a legal case against the state. The legal case was dismissed. When you look at the papers on the case, there was no COVID-positive person sent from a hospital to the nursing home while Mr. Arbini was in the
Cuomo's
nursing
getting booed
home.
right now.
So
Hilarious.
it is factually impossible, Brad, that
Like, even if you don't understand all the backstory with Cuomo and everything bad that he's done, on the stage alone, he's just not the most impressive candidate. He doesn't seem the most prepared. He doesn't seem the most knowledgeable.
I'm going to ask a question, but Brad Lander is more of a New Yorker than Andrew Cuomo is, and to hear all of this, to hear all this about St. Louis, we have to just make this clear. Now, all of us on this stage...
Wait, who are you going to ask your question to?
I'm asking it to Andrew Cuomo.
Okay.
I feel like most people would have known I'm going to ask Andrew Cuomo the question.
I knew.
I knew.
And you knew.
We did. We both knew.
We knew. We agree.
All of us on this stage have spoken about how Donald Trump is an existential threat to democracy, to this city, to this country. And Andrew Cuomo, you have received millions of dollars in funding from the very billionaires who put Donald Trump back into office. Will you now look at the camera and tell your super PAC to return those millions of dollars, and to your own campaign to return that close to $500,000 to ensure that this is not a race that is bought by those same Trump billionaires?
I mean, he's not going to do that, but cute ask.
I know you don't understand the law, but it would be illegal for me to direct an independent expenditure committee.
Is it illegal for you to direct your own campaign?
One question, one answer.
That's the law, okay? Number two, I dealt with Mr. Trump as governor. We had very, very difficult times. I got more help for New York from Trump than anyone expected. New York was one of the few places that he did not send in troops when he sent them everywhere else because he didn't want to deal with me. That's the fact. I got him to send us masks.
So are you going to
COVID,
return the $500,000 to your own campaign?
And then on your point about, billionaires, let's remember this. I am the candidate on the stage.
What's even going on here?
Supported by more labor unions than any other candidate. 650,000 working
There's a lot of
men
corruption
and women
that goes on
support
in
me.
the unions. So that's not necessarily
Let me finish.
the best
because
retort.
They know me and they know my record. The firefighters worked with me in storms. The utility workers endorsed me because I was in Puerto Rico putting the power
And also,
back together
the way
after
endorsements
the
work
storms.
is like each group wants to endorse the person they
major
think is going
union
to win.
that
They're
has
not always
endorsed
endorsing the person who they
has
think is going to do the best
endorsed
job.
me
And that's the
greater
thing
than
that
any
sucks about
candidate on
endorsements
this
that I
stage.
wish
You get
more
the final
people
question, Mr.
knew
Cuomo.
who don't have experience in
You
politics.
get the final question to
I'm sorry?
anyone on the
Okay.
stage. Yes.
My
They want to
question is
endorse
to,
who they think is
Mr.
going to
Tilson.
win and who's going to do the
We
most
learned
for
today
them
that,
personally as a group.
shockingly,
But
Mr.
keep in mind,
Mamdani is
it
not
has to be
part of
someone
the
they think is going to
DSA.
win.
But we've heard his plans over and over and over. You're a financial man. You're not a politician, Mr. Tilson. Probably smarter than the rest of us in that regard. But you've heard his plans for how to build housing, how he's going to finance the housing, free buses, how he's going to build grocery stores. And he said he can do all of this, and our taxes will not be any higher.
So this
than
is
New
interesting. He's
Jersey's
asking a question
taxes.
about
You're a
Zohran, but to
financial
Whitney
expert.
Tilson, which I actually think is a very
You've heard
smart
this
strategy.
157 times. Is it feasible and financially possible that he is telling the truth?
His mic's on.
The biggest piece of his, he says he will raise the revenue to pay for all the things that I can't even keep track of, all the spending promises he's making, by raising the corporate tax rate to New Jersey's level. What he is failing to acknowledge is that there are already many other city and state taxes that, in fact, if his plan were implemented, would result in New York City businesses paying double the tax rate of New Jersey, triple that of Connecticut, 5 times that of Florida, which would lead to an exodus of businesses and jobs and crush our city. But even more preposterous is that this all has to go through Albany. There is no appetite for what he is calling for. And
That's,
even if it were to pass,
to me, the biggest problem, the fact that it has to go through Albany.
Increase statewide, he's assuming that all the taxes all around the state, the legislature would
that
just
doesn't mean
hand
it can't
to
be
New York
done.
City. That's truly delusional. So I want to double taxes in New York City. I want to double spending in New York City, but I want to do it the way Mike Bloomberg did it, by doubling the size of the economy, which he did over 12 years. It's economic growth that we need, not destructive policies that would crush growth.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, candidates. We're going to move on to a new topic, and I'm going to ask you as we come down the home stretch, we're in our final half hour, we're going to keep everything a little tighter, and I'll thank you in advance for your cooperation. Let's talk about the fact that even before the war between Israel and Hamas, an unofficial but important task of every New York City mayor has been to bring New Yorkers together, even on issues of passionate concern where finding common ground is difficult. So let's talk for a few minutes about what kind of job you would do in this area. Mr. Mamdani, what is your message to Jewish New Yorkers who are supportive
This is so
of Israel
divisive. They should stop
and
talking
fear for
about
their
this
safety
in a
this
municipal
current political climate?
That I hear
election.
them, and that I have heard them over the course of this campaign and before that. After the days of the horrific war crime of October 7th, a friend of mine told me about how he felt sitting in his synagogue for Shabbat services when he heard the door open and a chill went up his spine as he turned around, not knowing who would be there.
For
and I
real.
heard that even just recently from a Jewish man in Williamsburg who told me how he locks the very door that used to be unlocked for so many years out of a concern for his safety. I will protect Jewish New Yorkers and deliver them that safety. I will do so as the next mayor of this city. And ultimately, what I will also say is to New Yorkers who have a disagreement with me on any issue, but also on the question of the Israeli government's policies, that disagreement, I know, is rooted in a shared sense of humanity. And in the words of Ed Koch, if you agree with me on 9 out of 12 issues, vote for me. 12 out of 12, see a psychiatrist.
Just as a follow-up, Mr. Mamdani, when it comes to the boycott and divestment movement aimed at Israel, which you have supported even before this campaign, what would you say to people who feel that that is an existential threat and that despite your position of wanting to keep people safe, they feel like you actually either have a different agenda or are in league with people who have an agenda that makes them feel fundamentally unsafe?
I've been very clear, and I will continue to be so, which is that at the core of my politics is a belief in nonviolence, and that my support for compliance with international law is support for nonviolent movements that seek to do so and build on the example that we saw with South Africa. And ultimately, what my focus will be, however, is not on what is happening outside of this city. It is going to be on making sure this is a city that is affordable for each and every New Yorker. What is
And
currently
this is the thing. This is what we should be talking about: municipal issues. Israel-Palestine doesn't really, it doesn't go beyond hate crimes that happen in New York. And I did research on this, and there's been an uptick in anti-Semitism, no questions asked. But there's also been an uptick in in Islamophobia, including violent incidents for both parties. So the mayor just needs to protect both those groups of people from violence.
Yeah, I believe I have. I would have to check the record. But let me correct the record here, if I might. Mr. Mamdani is dangerously
But wait. Let me ask you about this. Because this was an issue in the 2018 campaign when you were running for re-election, when they said that in 7 years you had never visited a mosque. Did something happen in the several years beyond that?
I believe I have. I know I've participated in many forums with imams. I am not, off the top of my head, I can't tell you where I went. But I'll check
How
the
about
record,
politicians
and I will.
don't
So
visit
let me
any
just
houses
get to the
of
point
worship
then. I mean,
because there
what
should
would
be a
you say to
separation
more
of
than
church and state, and I'm
760,000
so
Muslims
sick
here in
of
the
this.
city,
Again,
about
beyond keeping
whether or
people
not you
safe and
would
allowing
reach out to
them to
them, make them
worship
feel
in their
welcome,
specific
make them feel protected,
houses
and
of worship.
I would say we are a city of immigrants. I welcome them. I love them. I'm not Mr. Mamdani. I'm not anti-Semitic. I'm not divisive. I didn't say I would boycott Israel. I didn't say I would divest from Israel. I didn't say I would sanction Israel. I don't give forums to anti-Semites. I don't give forums to extremists who blame America for 9/11. I didn't say that I would boycott Cornell Technion because they're pro-Israel. He is the flip side of the coin of Trump. Trump says he'll boycott Cornell because they're anti-Israel. He says, I'll boycott Cornell because they're pro-Israel. Division is our death in this city, this state, and this nation. And
Division is our death. Cuomo has a point there. And I think it's because of, especially Zohran growing up in the age of social media, that we know a lot of his personal views, that hopefully if he, would be able to bring a plan to New York City and keep his personal views to himself about national issues.
Talk about himself as a man of unity, when just yesterday,
which it's his right to have
we
those
found out
thoughts.
that his super PAC was sending mail that artificially darkened and lengthened my beard to stoke the very fears of that division in this city. The reason he doesn't have a message for Muslim New Yorkers is because he has nothing to say to us, because he doesn't see us as if we are every other New Yorker. And ultimately, the campaign that I am running is a campaign that seeks to go beyond the politics of the Trump era, where candidates on the stage describe me as a monster, describe me at the gates, where they say that I am, in fact, the other. This is a campaign to bring people together. It's why we have the support of Jewish and Muslim New Yorkers. It's why we have the support of people across the 5 boroughs.
Real quick. Yeah. You don't bring New Yorkers together by saying President Obama is evil and President Obama is a liar. You don't bring them together by saying Hakeem Jeffries is like George Wallace and the DAS sending ads to Hakeem Jeffries with watermelons. Koch didn't say what you said he said. He said, anyone who threatens Israel, I would never support.
Okay.
That's what Koch says, and that's you.
We're going to bring in the other candidates. I want you
Again,
to tell me.
this obsession with Israel in a municipal debate is driving me
as far as
absolutely
bringing people
nuts.
together around this particular issue, which has brought people into the streets and caused so much controversy.
We have so many serious
All
issues
New
that we need to
Yorkers
be
deserve to feel safe, no matter who they are.
tackled right here in New York
As
City. We
City
can't be
Council
having this
Speaker,
conversation
I have
about
allocated
Israel.
millions of dollars to combat anti-Semitism. As mayor, I will fully fund to protect all New Yorkers, something that our current mayor has not done.
And like that being
We're
said,
gonna
after
fully
looking at
fund
the
Commission
stats,
on
like
Human
this
Rights
topic should
to
be
make sure that we are
anti-Semitism
taking
and
care
Islamophobia
of
because
all
they
of the
both went up
citizens of the city of New York. Right now,
by a
that
large
commission
percentage.
is significantly understaffed. 20%.
I think specifically the problem, though, is that,
is
you know,
lacking.
New York City is the home to the second largest Jewish population after Israel, which is of note. And that does bother me because when you look at, you know, because we were going into people's personal views, I think something of note that actually would make sense to bring up if I were Andrew Cuomo is that Zohran Mamdani's basically his entire career in activism has been about free Palestine, which is fine. That's his personal view. But it's weird that you would then choose to, number one, run for a municipal office when it seems like your interests are more international. And then second, specifically to run for mayor of New York City, the city with the second largest Jewish population after Israel. I do find that weird.
And I will keep Jews safe, and I will keep Muslims and everyone else safe. I was at a mosque for Eid last week up in the Bronx of Ghanaian and Nigerians beautifully out in the street. That's the New York City we want. Many Sundays, I go to Union Square for a vigil with Israelis for peace, who are calling for a return of the hostages, for an end to the war in Gaza, a real ceasefire, for the famine to be ended by humanitarian aid. I believe passionately in the vision of Israel as a Jewish and democratic state, but for that to be real, the occupation of the West Bank and Gaza has to end, and Israelis and Palestinians have to find a way to peace and mutual self-determination. That is not the job.
They have as much say as you do in this.
What a mayor can do is set a model for how you bring people together.
Mr. Mari.
Part of the magic of our city, what makes our city so beautiful, the reason that people come here from all over the world, is that you can be your full self and be able to walk down the street and not feel like you are threatened by violence. You can live out your entire being, pray to who you want to pray to, go to whatever religious setting you want to, and you should have the protection.
You know, it says something about our education system that the candidates have to talk to us like we're kindergartners.
An unequivocal rise in anti-Semitism, and we must deal with that head on. We must be unequivocal about how we deal with it. But the role of the mayor is to keep everyone safe, and that is what my plan is. I want to restore the funding for the Office to Prevent Hate Crime. I want to ensure that our Commission on Human Rights has all the personnel that it needs to. I want to extend education so that all of our New Yorkers understand the rich Jewish history, but we also have to ensure that Muslims feel protected in this city as well, that we have their back as well. That is what makes New York City, New York City. That's the kind of city that I'm going to lead.
Okay. Mr. Stringer.
Well, let me be very clear. I am not confused about what I believe in or who I am. I am a Zionist. I believe in the Jewish state of Israel.
Wow.
I'm against BDS. It's anti-Semitic.
Interesting that he came out right and said that he's a Zionist. That's very interesting.
Which is a living memorial to the Holocaust. So when I found, as we all did, the horror of what happened in Washington, the Jewish Museum, I really thought about my wife going to work and coming home. And I thought about my Jewish kids, 2 kids who, one just bar mitzvahed, and I worry about them. And as mayor, I'm going to protect the Jewish community. But here's what a mayor really has to do. We've got to go back to what I used to do when I was controller and borough president. When the Muslim community called me and said, we've had people killed outside our mosque. We need you to be there to support us. I was there. When people were being slurred Muslims because of 9/11.
What?
And prejudice was
when
happening
people
all over
were
the city.
being
As
slurred
one of the highest-ranking Jewish
Muslims?
officials, I was there. When we needed to bring halal food into the public school system, I brought the Muslim community and the Jewish community together in the controller's office.
Yeah, because that is your job as a public servant. You have to do these things. And if you're not, you should be fired. Everyone should be served equally when you are an elected official of a space.
Ends the chaos.
Why are we clapping for this? Yeah, you did your job.
I'm part of New York's Jewish community through my wife and 3 daughters. We've been members of Central Synagogue for 25 years, and I can tell you, New Yorkers, Jewish New Yorkers don't feel safe.
This is true. I'm Jewish, and I've lived in New York City for many decades, since I was 17 years old, and this is the first time I've ever felt unsafe being Jewish, and it sucks. But I think it's a time of hate for many groups of people.
And I hold the people inciting these mobs, the leaders, yes, Zohran
needs to be
Mamdani,
rectified.
Partly responsible for this. And
But I don't think having a
use words like
conversation about international politics.
When you use words referring to the only Jewish state in the world, like genocide and apartheid, when you call for divestment and all, that is inciting these mobs. And he says shared sense of humanity and all these nice-sounding words, but he has a double standard because
I'm sorry, when 54,000 innocent people are dead, it obviously is a genocide. It's just a genocide that Hamas is involved in alongside Israel.
Okay. Briefly, yes.
I am being smeared for echoing the same words as Israeli historians Amos Goldberg and Daniel Blattman. I am being mischaracterized on the stage for echoing the same words of a former Israeli Prime Minister, Ehud Olmert, who said recently, "What we are doing in Gaza is a war of devastation. It is indiscriminate, limitless, cruel, and criminal killing of civilians." I say these things because far too often we take what can be a place of disagreement and instead start to broach beyond that. And these kinds of characterizations, they are part and parcel of what leads to the dehumanization in our city, which is why an elected official in our own city has called for me to be deported. It cannot be disentangled from what's going on right now.
Okay.
Thank you, candidate.
I knew so Zohran was born in Uganda, and I knew, and I actually do fear that if he wins, that Donald Trump will try to get him deported. That's a fear that I have.
Mr. Tilson, you made education your campaign's focus, one of its focuses, and have been critical of the current performance of the city's public school system. One of the new challenges the next mayor will face is a new requirement to limit the number of students in a class. How would your administration handle this class size bill?
I oppose this class size mandate. It's going to balloon the already $40 billion budget by about $1.6 billion a year.
Crazy
and this has
response.
been tried around the country, and it is one of the least effective ways. It does not move the needle on student achievement because, while of course all of us want smaller
Have you
class
gone,
sizes,
guys? Have you gone to
everything
public
being
school? Have you ever been into a class where you had too many
benefit is
students? There's no
offset by
way
the
it doesn't
requirement to
affect
suddenly hire
learning.
thousands
It
of
affects
teachers
behavior.
who are
My
less
mom is a
experienced
public
and less
school teacher.
qualified
It's
than,
so much more work.
existing teachers.
School,
And so the benefit from lower
class size 100% affects each student's experience in the classroom.
Guess which students get those teachers? It is disproportionately low-income minority kids. This class size mandate would not only hurt our budget, but hurt those children. So I've dedicated my adult life to trying to reduce the educational inequalities in our system as one of the founders of Teach for America, on the board of KIPP charter schools for more than 20 years.
Teach for America is something that only like rich people do, though.
That by and large today runs for the benefit of
I know
adults.
people are gonna get mad about that, but like all these kind of like, I looked into these things where you go away for like years and help people in other countries, and it's like no one who's not rich can do that.
Mandate. It is the mandate. So it is something that we have to follow. I too believe that, you know, as one coming from Southeast Queens, I was education chairperson of my community board, and I can tell you that I walked into many a classroom over the past 15 years or so and have seen the effects of too many students crammed in one classroom. So that is a mandate. It is a mandate for a reason. What we need to look at, though, is the allocation of funds within the DOE. The DOE has the largest budget within New York City of all agencies, and we need to take a look at that money, and we need to make sure that our children are the recipients of the resources within the DOE. Sometimes there are contracts, there are other things going towards the DOE, creating that inflated budget, but we have to make sure that our children are truly the recipients of that
and our teachers.
Massive DOE budget.
Thank you. Mr. Myrie, same question.
So as many of you probably already know, I'm a proud public school kid, went to PS 161 in Crown Heights. They are the crown jewel of this city. I would not be here without it. I think it's really important that we invest in our schools. The reduction of class sizes was something I was proud to vote for in the state legislature because we know and the data tells us that smaller class sizes have better outcomes for the students and for the teachers. But I'd also like to see some more investments in our mental health for our students. We have not appreciated what has happened over COVID-19, the learning loss that is going to have impacts for many years to come. We have to support our students. We have to support our providers. And in addition to that, y'all know what I'm going to say, one after school for all. Every kid in this city, from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade, we need it, and we need it now. That is what I'm going to do as the next mayor.
Thank you. And this is another education issue. This question will be for you, Mr. Mamdani. What's one thing you would do to improve education for students with significant or complex abilities who can't be served by their neighborhood schools?
No, I think first and foremost, we need to ensure that they also have high-quality tutoring, which we've seen some steps towards. Part of this also comes back to the ability to attract and retain teachers across the DOE. And currently what we're seeing is that on this discussion of class size mandate, we would need to hire, estimates say, close to 10,000 teachers. When we're talking about paraprofessionals, we have so many vacant positions because these positions simply do not pay enough. I support legislation in the Council 1261, which would create a recurring annual bonus so that we can actually fill those positions. Because ultimately, what every child and what every parent of that child deserves is the same high-quality, excellent public education. And we need to ensure that every single dollar we spend is a dollar that goes towards that. Because as some of my fellow candidates have said, there is too much money in the DOE that is currently being spent on consulting and
See, I know a lot of people are making fun of Zohran for this, but like, and I made this point in a lot of my meetings when I was a candidate. The mayor needs to have star power. I think that is actually a really important role of the mayor because the mayor needs to get the city behind him or her so that things get done in Albany. So while everyone's kind of making fun of him for making videos and being on TikTok and Instagram and stuff, and it's interesting the way he's presenting himself, to me it's like a little performative, but I do think this is a smart move because the mayor does have to have star power. They're the mascot of the city, for lack of a better word.
Tier 6 that Andrew Cuomo did was the death knell for them leaving. I was somebody who believed as controller that managing their pensions actually kept them in the system, and I did that well. But in terms of what I audited at DOE, it is a cesspool. Contracts, secret deals, pay to play, we're going to upend that when I'm mayor. I know where the bodies are buried there. I've been waiting to do this for a long time. But education is the lifeblood of this city.
And so when someone like Scott Stringer, who you shouldn't rank, but who has good ideas, right, with like the misspending that's going on in the Department of Education, if I'm a candidate on that stage, I just make a mental note and I go, all right, well, he's saying there's a lot of corruption in the spending in the Department of Education. If I don't know that firsthand, I'm going to take his word on it and have my team look into that when I'm mayor. Simple as that.
But there have been issues with implementation and even critics who say other educational initiatives should be prioritized. What would be your administration's commitment to these programs?
Well, we pioneered pre-K on the state side, and we're very proud of it. The more we can do, the better. But let's be realistic about education. We all agree, and you've heard many good ideas here. We want more paraprofessionals, more teacher centers, more after-school care.
I don't love when someone says let's be realistic. Because it makes it seem like they're going to make cuts.
We also have a terrible fiscal problem, and this is before the Trump tsunami.
Did
so
I
if
not
the
call
state
it?
is going to
Did I not
mandate
call
a
it?
smaller class size, and we can say, let's agree it's a good idea, the state has to pay for a smaller class size. Otherwise, we're just going to be savaging other parts of the budget. And part of the mayor's job is to advocate for New York City and to have state legislators say, we think it's a great idea. Here's the mandate. You must do it.
So there's a template that they used in Vermont that I was using for my campaign, where basically you can get more money allocated specifically to New York City because you put all the funding for education in one pot, and New York City, just how it's broken up, would end up getting more of that.
Who's a lifelong public elementary school guidance counselor, and both my kids are pre-K to 12 public New York City public school students. The New York Times opinion panel today specifically praised my education track record, and what's needed is clarity that lower class size, that better student-teacher ratios are good, and a way to get it done. Andrew is actually right that more money is needed from the state, and I've documented how much as controller, and said, here's how we're going to go about doing it. We should start in those schools that are low income and highly kids of color and get class size done there. We should do collaborative team teaching, especially to make sure we can provide extra services for students with special needs. There are some amazing models of school mergers like Brooklyn 305 United. The next mayor can reduce class size and dramatically improve schooling for all
So this is
kids.
one of my big problems with Zohran's campaign. There's just not enough information about public schools. And in my opinion, overseeing public schools is one of the main and most important jobs that the mayor of New York City has.
The city says there were 252
Especially for a young mayor, you know, you would really think that you really want to invest in the future. And it's not just about money and affordability. It's about giving everyone equal tools as they start out their life and their journey.
To get us
You know?
much closer to zero traffic fatalities.
Well, look, I think that we have to own up to the fact that Vision Zero needs a lot more vision and a lot more safety protocols in place. We need to have dedicated bike lanes, but we also have to have zero tolerance for people who are abusing this privilege and using bikes and e-bikes on the sidewalks. You can be pro-transit, pro-bike lane, but also pro-safety. We put kids' lives in danger and seniors. So I would certainly revisit education and making sure we have zero tolerance for that interference, reduced deaths. The other thing I want to just say as an elected official, you know, we have a lot of elected officials, my friend Brad is one of them, that goes to every Vision Zero press conference and then talks about the tragedies that befall these kids, but yet racks up speeding tickets and then says, I'm sorry. We have got to, as mayor, say to the politicians who get the placards, I will pull those placards if you show up at a Vision Zero press conference
Mr. Lander,
and you
your
violate red
response
lights.
to that and your answer to the question.
Yesterday, I was proud to be endorsed by Streets PAC, which is the set of people who have been fighting against traffic
Was
violence
Scott just
for
saying that Brad Lander
decades.
has speeding? What just happened?
You know, I haven't gotten a speeding ticket in 4 years.
That's
so
good.
Scott Stringer can talk all he wants. But what I will do, this is my time, Scott. What I will do is re-implement. I passed as a city
Brad
council
Lander
member
known
the
for like
Reckless
getting
Driver
speeding tickets or
Accountability
something?
Act, which looked at those folks who are the most reckless drivers, the most speed violations, the most red light violations,
And you on the list.
and would impound their car unless they actually started to improve. Eric Adams let it expire, even though there's good evidence it was working. I'll expand it to make sure it's in all of our traffic courts.
Yeah, similar
get it
to a
back
celebrity,
in
how you're
place.
kind of
The Vision
always
Zero we can have in
have
New
to
York
be
City.
doing your job
Zero
as a
traffic
politician.
deaths.
Like
That's
you,
infrastructure
I do believe it is
improvements on
part
our
of your job
streets,
that you have to be
and
a
that's holding reckless
model
drivers accountable.
citizen.
Mamdani, I'll
That's
add
part of
another
your
wrinkle
job.
from a listener to my show who submitted this question on pedestrian safety. Mopeds, e-bikes, and scooters are out of control and pose a danger, but what specifically can be done to get them to obey traffic laws? So what would your response to the original question and that listener be?
All in 1 minute.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you, Elizabeth, for the question, if you are listening right now. I'll take that first. You know, the key thing here is we have to understand that so many of the violations of our laws as pertaining to our streetscape are also violations that are the natural result of an economic model of these food delivery apps. When we're talking about so many of the delivery workers, the orders that they have to deliver within a time frame, there's no
They're in a
way
time
for
crunch
them
like
to be able
Amazon
to obey
workers.
the laws of the road. And one of those apps is DoorDash. DoorDash has given Andrew Cuomo's super PAC $1 million. That is why when you get those mailers that are lying about me, you see the top 3 donors at the bottom, one of them is DoorDash. The reason they give that money is because they want to influence labor and street safety regulations. They want to ensure they can continue to operate with
I like
impunity.
this.
I'm
Expose
going to
it.
ensure we
Expose
come
it.
back to a streetscape that is actually one of coherence and order, and we're going to do that by taking on those apps. To your original question, what we need to do is finally fulfill the streets master plan. We are so many miles behind the building of bus lanes and protected bike lanes. Those are critical, not just for safety, but also to ensure that we are finally following the law, which is something that Andrew Cuomo would find to be just guidance, not a requirement.
Mr. Cuomo, your turn.
Yeah. I think Mr. Mamdani starts with the assumption that if you receive money from someone, then you will do what they want. That may work for him, but I'm not for rent and I'm not for sale.
What?
So we wonder who's funding DSA and who's funding his BDS movement. On the specific question...
Campaign finance board, and you can see all the donations.
Yeah. On the specific question...
So obviously, like, DoorDash is funding Cuomo, but also he does make a good point that the DSA is in control of Zohran Mamdani, for sure.
That was a mistake, because here in New York City, the local regulation has been slow. The bikes are moving too quickly. It's mayhem. Too many people are getting hurt. I would have the apps responsible to license the bike, and they have the responsibility for tickets that are issued to that bike.
Is feeling old.
It's their financial liability. They police it. I would reduce the speed limit
disorganized for someone who's been in politics so long.
Because if you're
These answers should be more concise.
You are as much a subject
and articulate
of the speeding e-bike as anybody else.
Thank you. Ms. Adams.
Yes. The thing that no one is speaking about, when you're looking at planning, there is a city agency that is responsible for that. They are called the DOT. So, you know, as
Department of Transportation,
leader of the City Council, we have been in oversight with the DOT many, many, many times. And as one of my colleagues mentioned, they are not in compliance with the Streets Master Plan. The agency entrusted by the mayor of the city of New York is not in compliance, and we have had hearing after hearing after hearing. The bottom line is that DOT needs some tweaking in order for us to get this right. So my commissioner as mayor would be one that is able to handle the work put before him or her to do the work that the Department of Transportation is mandated to do for the people of the city of New York. They wanted the responsibility to keep New Yorkers safe, and as mayor, it would be my responsibility to make sure that they are in compliance.
We have Mr. Myrie and Mr. Tilson yet to go in this round. Mr. Myrie.
Thank you. Look, I am in relatively good shape. I'm on my feet a lot. I'm a pedestrian, but I have had to dodge out of the way of an e-bike or a moped. And if you are an older adult,
every New Yorker
that
has.
is a really scary prospect. So without question, there has to be regulation, but the demand is created by us. And the apps that are making many, many, many times over on that demand should have some responsibility and accountability to ensure that things are safe. As you have heard, we are out of compliance with the law. There are new categories of vehicles on our streets that need to be regulated, and our streets master plan must be implemented. I want to ensure that we have protected bike lanes and that we have more bus lanes, but I was proud in Albany to vote for a super speeder bill because we have too many reckless drivers on the road who have done and demonstrated that they don't belong on the road.
We're coming to the end of the debate. Mr. Tilson, briefly.
Yes, I was almost death number 253 last year. I was hit on my bike crossing Park Avenue, and so I ride my bike.
I don't know that I would say that when I'm running for mayor. It just I know it's not his fault that he got hit by an e-biker on his bike, but there's something about it that makes you look weak. And again, this is just it's not good, it's not bad, it's just what it is. Like, don't be like you're hunched over, you have gray hair, and you're like, I was almost death number 253. That's not the play. Baby girl.
So I actually am glad to see that Mayor Adams recently adopted something I've been calling for months, that e-bikes cannot go faster. It has to be built into the bike, cannot go faster than 15 miles an hour. And anyone who's a chronic speeder, you can revoke their license, of course, but an alternative middle path is you can install technology in the car that does not allow them to break the speed limit.
Thank you very much.
Okay, candidates, we are just about done. We're going to have time for just a couple of lightning round questions because we've got literally something like a minute left. So let's go with a show of hands. Should the city increase the number of permits for street vendors? Hands up are Mr. Tilson and Mr. Stringer and everybody. Okay, across the board. From what you know, and there's no room for discussion here, legal cannabis shops, are they good for the city on balance? Mr. Cuomo says yes. Nobody else?
If they're properly regulated.
Mr. Mamdani, yes.
You gotta have some.
Okay. Oh, boy.
Where would all my boyfriends go otherwise?
Probably wants to know the answer with. Raise your hand if you know who you're ranking second on your ballot.
There you go.
Mr. Tilson, who is it?
Andrew Cuomo.
I knew it was going to be Andrew Cuomo.
Nobody else.
I am devastated.
Going to say who you're ranking second? All right.
Should penalties be increased for fare beating in the subways?
Increased? No.
They're not enforced.
Okay, and then I guess who here still reads actual printed newspapers? Everybody.
Really?
These are not hand-raised questions, and I'll start with you, Ms. Adams.
I don't read
Other
printed
than rent or
newspapers, but I have a
mortgage,
ton of paid
name one expensive
subscriptions
thing in New York you wish was cheaper, very fast.
online.
Other than rent or mortgage? Groceries.
Groceries, Mr. Cuomo.
Yeah, food.
Food, Mr. Lander.
Childcare.
Childcare, Mr. Mamdani.
Childcare.
Mr. Myrie.
Childcare.
Mr. Stringer.
100% childcare.
Mr. Tilson.
Groceries.
And starting with Mr. Tilson, name a politician you have a good relationship with. Quickly.
Cory Booker.
Cory Booker. Mr. Stringer.
Mostly everyone on stage.
Mr.
Oh,
Myrie.
God.
Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins.
Mr. Mamdani.
Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who I'm proud to be endorsed by.
Mr.
Of
Lander.
course. Power move.
State Senator Liz Krueger.
Mr. Cuomo.
Mike Bloomberg, David Patterson, thank you for the endorsement.
Ms. Adams.
Attorney General Tish James.
Okay. That is going to do it for this debate. I want to
Some of
thank
those
the
were very
candidates
inside
and
New
our
Yorky
partners
things,
all
and
of
Tish
you at
James
home
is
for
currently
watching. If you missed
having legal
any part of
troubles.
this debate, you can see it in its entirety at ny1.com and the Spectrum News YouTube account. That's where you can also find our other primary debates. Remember, early voting begins this Saturday. Primary day is on June 24th. Thank you for watching and listening, and have a great evening.
All right, guys, that is the end of that debate. These 2-hour-long debates are something else. It's so interesting, though, because, each response is only about 45 seconds. So when you break it down, what each candidate really has to know and deliver is not that much, which is, why I was alarmed at how much information I was able to, retain and, kind of how easy I was able to catch up in being a politician. Yeah, can you... take this up. I don't care about their opinions. We're doing the Without a Country watch along, so it's all about my opinions. I also love that with this setting. It's kind of like a Wayne's World watch along right now. So my main takeaways from that debate. What we saw in the first debate. The first debate was anyone who had spent $198,000. Notably missing from this second debate were Michael Blake, who I think had a really good showing in that first debate and really got on some people's ballots. And then, of course, Jessica Ramos, who has just had terrible fundraising problems since day one. Even though she's a rather well-known politician in municipal politics in New York City. So again, that raised eyebrows to, for me. I was like, well, there must be a reason why she's not fundraising well. And the reason wasn't that she wasn't intelligent or didn't have a good platform. I think it was kind of like that she was just unliked or disliked. We're still live, right? Okay. And then
finish watching the final
another thing and so those people were missing, and in this one you had to either be polling at a certain percentage or have raised over $2 million. So this is the heavy hitters, obviously, on the stage. The only people who have any realistic chance of winning. I'm actually going to name 4 people because you never know what could happen. And as they talked about earlier on the show today, Catherine Garcia, because of an endorsement from the New York Times, rather late in late in the race last time the mayoral races were happening, kind of came out from nowhere. She was the head of the Department of Sanitation. And she ended up, being number 2, I believe, in the last election. So that's really interesting. But the only 4 people who were really looking at with any chance of running this city is, of course, Andrew Cuomo, Zohran Mamdani, Adrian Adams, and Brad Lander. And so I think those are the people that we really want to concentrate on their performances tonight. Although I will say, and I'll say it again, I was really, really pleasantly surprised with how much Zelnor Myrie stepped it up. I think he is, very qualified, but just doesn't have that star power. And needs like his policy needs to be a little bit more polished, because outside of his housing plan, which a lot of people speak about, he just doesn't have the polish when he's talking about his different policies. Zohran Mamdani is completely polished. It's very succinct. He keeps reiterating the same 3 things again and again, which is something so simple that every Democrat should know by now. You pick 3 things that you're going to deliver to the people and you reiterate them over and over and over again. It is a winning strategy. I don't know why everyone else is not doing it on the stage. It is crazy to me that Zohran is the only one who seems to get this. He's 100% right. There's the live chat going on right now. This is the live chat for the New York, Spectrum 1. And it's basically just, people saying yay for Zohran, or people saying he's a communist, vote for Cuomo. I mean, that's kind of the only thing. And I saw some yawns when Adrian Adams was speaking. But again, what upsets me about this chat is it's really become this conversation about Israel versus Palestine. That should not be the conversation that we are having for mayor of New York City. And this is a dangerous conversation. And why Donald Trump, a big part of the reason Donald Trump ended up getting elected president was because we started having this singular conversation for America about Israel versus Palestine, when there were obviously the cost of groceries was also a factor, but that was a big part of it. A lot of Zionists and Jewish Americans who are pro-Israel ended up voting for Donald Trump when that was not a move that they normally would make, when they normally were people who would usually vote for the Democratic candidate. So again, I just think it's getting us off topic when there are so many things we need to see in New York City. Andrew Cuomo, I think, possibly did even a worse job in this debate than in the previous one. I wasn't overly impressed with Zohran in the last debate. I think he stepped it all up a lot for this debate. And Cuomo really just thought he was going to slide into Gracie Mansion, and Zohran is putting a lot of work in. He has a lot of feet on the ground. As he said, he has volunteers everywhere. He is the only candidate who I consistently see his canvassers out. I passed a canvasser of his yesterday when I was walking home from the gym. I see literature out for him. I see stickers. I see posters. He is the only mayoral candidate that I see that for. And Andrew Cuomo really thought that he was just going to slide into the Gracie Mansion. And right now, I don't know what his strategy is. I mean, obviously, he finally sent out literature today where he increased the length and color of Zohran's beard, which is a dumb move. Obviously, Zohran's team is going to see that and point it out. It makes you look like a liar. And I think that if, you want to fearmonger, you don't need to change what Zohran's face looks like to fearmonger. You can go, there is enough background. Again, his many years in pro-Palestinian activism, I think, would be the strongest tool to use rather than, changing the aesthetics of his face. That's such a crazy, weird move. Again, that makes you look like a liar. But I think Zohran really stepped up his performance and really, seemed confident, had clear, concise answers to the questions, was well prepared. I think arguably the most well-prepared candidate on the stage tonight. And you just got, and like I said, we need a well-spoken manager of the city who is going to motivate people in New York City to get things done, because it's not us who are fundraising for ourselves. It is a lot of decisions are getting made in Albany, and we have to make noise as residents of New York City to get the budget allocated for us in Albany. That is part of our job, unfortunately, and the mayor has to make us want to do that. So I think that's important. Again, I think Zellner really stepped up his game. I was really much, happy to see him step up his game in this debate. Whitney Tilson continues to be just an absolute moron. And Adrienne Adams, again, I don't know. I feel like she's kind of is going with this super serious approach, which I think is a product of being a woman in politics. So I don't blame her for that. But my experience with her behind closed doors, she's actually, she's very warm and personable. And I think that if she brought some more of that to the table, that she perhaps would perform better in the polls, because she is really well respected by the political world in New York City. And so I think if she brought a little bit more of just like who she actually is, her personality to the table, she would poll a lot better. Scott Stringer, whatever, take any ideas you like of him, but don't do it. And then Brad Lander, I would say, is the other most improved candidate after Zellner Myrie for this specific debate. I think he gained some confidence from that, not endorsement, but the head nod from the New York Times today. I think he really gained confidence from that, and it showed in tonight's debate. So yeah, that's it. Remember, early voting starts June 14th, which is Saturday. Obviously, a ton of protests will also be going on in the city on Saturday for the No Kings March to protest Donald Trump's military parade for himself that's costing taxpayers $45 million. If you are not in New York City, you can go to nokings.org to find a march near you. I will be at the No Kings March in New York City. It starts at 2 p.m. at the Fountain in Bryant Park. Thank you so much for watching along, for being an informed voter. And in-person voting for the Democratic primary is June 24th, and you have to be a registered Democrat in New York City. We have closed primaries here. And that is that. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Corinne Fisher. This is a watch along that is part of the Without a Country podcast. Without a Country live streams every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern time. And we don't just talk about municipal politics, although we've been talking about it a lot more. And for those of you who don't know, I myself was a mayoral candidate this year. I have conceded because of ballot access issues. I spent $15,000 fighting the corrupt Board of Elections in court. That's another story for another day. Right now, I just want to concentrate on this. And then although I am not on the ballot, my campaign is still legally open. So if you don't have 5 choices that you want to rank, you can legally write me in as an official write-in candidate. Corinne Fisher, CORINNEFISHER. It is important that we rank all 5 candidates. And although voting is your choice and I would never tell you who to vote for, I do wholeheartedly urge you not to rank Andrew Cuomo. He is a predator, a liar, and a thief. And those are 3 things that I don't think we need any more of in Gracie Mansion. So thank you so much for joining me, and go out and vote and do your civic duty. Follow me on Instagram and on YouTube for more information, and I appreciate you being here. Have a great night. Take care.